your move, Unreal.
Alright, here we go.
Seriously, you're expecting the right poses at the same time?
Yeah, just make it happen, alright? Yeah! Alright guys, come on, 60 seconds! Hey Tony, real or fake? Fake Canadian maples. Whatever, man. What? Alright guys, let's get them buried. 30 seconds. Alright, he's down. Let's go, more dirt. More dirt. All right, gravestone. Ready. Handle. Bring him down.
Where he came from, no one knew. Though I once heard tell he was kicked out of Castellon, Texas for teaching a mule to play poker, breaking one of the few laws in that frontier town at the time. His goal was to get revenge on his old posse who had packed him with lead and left him with a permanent address under 3 feet of Texas clay. Then get dangerously drunk on Applejack whiskey. He was a one-man judge, jury, and executioner on the bloody vengeance trail. He was the Gunstringer. Taking a bead at the cans, Gunstringer tested his aim after the nuisances of rising from the dead. Years ago, his old posse had shot him in the back and given him a one-way ticket to Boot Hill. They were the usual gang of samurai cowboys, voodoo priestesses, cutthroat wildcatters, purveyors of iniquities better left unmentioned, like dressing a horse in women's pantaloons, and Wavy Tooth Man. Something told him they would not be hard to find. The image of that air-filled betrayer still fresh on his mind, the Gunstringer set out to mark his first target off the list. A lifetime of fierce fistic encounters had left him light on his feet. The Gunstringer was drawn from long days and nights in the saddle. 10 pounds of rawhide and muscle. It was greed that turned his posse against him. Like vultures, they turned on him without a second thought.
You got more than a pound now. So lay him down. I'm coming.
Twin sheets of flame stabbed out from his hands whenever his guns cleared leather. A gift from the underworld, El Taco Diablo, the Deathbringer. Each bite brought a clarity of focus, a will resolute. Those who tasted of it would be forever changed. The wavy tube men are a predictable bunch. When they drink through their pay, they find work at saloons, dance halls, and gynecologists' offices, flailing their arms outside with an air of jollity even the most trail-hardened cowpuncher finds hard to resist. Sensing the Gunstringer's quandary, the wavy tube man doubled his efforts, knowing that if he could take the edge off his opponent's bloodlust, the fight would be his. His enemy was too well hid from this position. As the wavy tube man received his everlasting, the Gunstringer felt the hand of fate upon him. He knew that from time to time, whenever the trail got too rough, he could call upon the hand to send his enemies to join the heavenly choir. But at what price, he wondered. The train tracks cut through the high plains like a scar on an otherwise perfect porcelain beauty. Its iron horse, with its oil baron's brand, a symbol of the boundless wealth gushing from underneath the earth. The Gunstringer vowed to fill the old pioneer cemetery, two to a grave if necessary, until he got his man. Tornado, the Gunstringer swept through the desert, sparking the end of the line for any man or beast unfortunate enough to wander in his path. It was hate and the absence of remorse, wrapped in a crunchy shell. Streaks made tossing lead fun, but the Gunstringer had to keep his eye on the prize. The Gunstringer didn't trust the winged creatures. His enemy lay well hid on the other side of this cover. His enemy's defensive position afforded him protection from the gun.
We're gonna kill you again!
You ever get that feeling there's a joker in the deal somewhere? What was it? A mirage? A hoax? Natives spiking the water wells with peyote? He could not venture to guess. Once more, the dark powers infused the Gunstringer. Every chamber had a destination. TNT wrangling was a dangerous business filled with catastrophic injury. You could count the unblemished practitioners among their kind on the nubs of one hand. Try as he might, he could not fire upon his enemy from his present vantage point. He made sure 6 more would meet their maker. Even the most cowardly of creatures will spoil for a fight if you mess with its den. The Gunstringer knew a ruckus at the Baron's oil wells would flush that traitor from his hiding. Bones rattled from the force of the impact. The Gunstringer watched news of his return spread on panicked horseback. Good. Let that Baron know he'd soon get what was coming. There are times when the cold report of a pistol doesn't get personal enough. The Gunstringer flexed his leather-clad hands and relished the meaty impact of a hard-swung punch. Where he walked, death walked with him. Those who consumed El Taco Diablo would be unstoppable in battle, but at what cost? The man's face would end up as pitted and scarred as the desert around him. With 6 targets lined up, it was time to fire. This ain't gonna be a fair fight. Let's get him, boys. 6 shots of lead would now make their mark. His streak had gone cold.
Turn up! We're gonna crash!
A half-dozen shots lit up the air. The oil baron's influence infected the landscape, feeding on the land like a bloated tick. Getting to the baron would mean disposing of his cronies and hangers-on, starting with the corrupt sheriff. Cinco plus 1 is 6. He was 6 for 6. Through no will of his own, the Gunstringer found himself inside the bank, as if some fatal leaven were at work around him, moved by some unseen hand. Gunstringer couldn't shoot until he peeked out of cover. His bullets found their mark on all 6 targets. The Gunstringer would have to lean out to get a clear shot at his enemy. Pin him down! He couldn't aim while still huddled in cover. The Gunstringer learned long ago that just because someone wears a ball-pointed star on their chest, don't put them on the right side of the law. The sheriff was dirty with the oil baron's money, and nothing would save him now. He had 6 targets in his sights. Not one would escape his aim. very nearly buzzard food. A spray of bullets hit all 6 of their intended targets. There was no sight line until he leaned out. Missed. The screams of the dying faded to a distant murmur, for ringing in his ears was only the crunch of the Taco Diablo. Could not fire from this position.
We're gonna kill you, Geek!
Sheriff came cheap and died young in this territory. Gunstringer reckoned this one had outlived his welcome tenfold. The train was about to make its last and final stop at the bottom of Dry Hump Canyon. The oil baron would have to wait. There are times when the cold report of a pistol doesn't get personal enough. The gunstringer flexed his leather-clad hands and relished the meaty impact of a hard-swung punch. Where he walked, death walked with him. The underworld was well pleased with the wrath of the gunstringer. They offered him a gift of sustenance and vigor. The gunstringer had no problem with an old-fashioned scrap. The gunstringer ran smack dab into the terrain like a stampeding bull. Time and place for brute force. This was one of them. A gunfighter can do no better than to shoot 6 targets at once. Shooting streak had disappeared. Baron's influence infected the landscape, feeding on the land like a bloated tick. Getting to the Baron would mean disposing of his cronies and hangers-on, starting with the corrupt sheriff.
Cut the horn! Hell! You're one slippery...
He put a bullet into all 6 of his targets. Through no will of his own, the Gunstringer found himself inside the bank, as if some fatal leaven were at work around him, moved by some unseen hand. He would have to lean around this cover to bushwhack him properly. His enemy was too well hid from this position.
Coming for you!
All 6 of his targets stopped lead. Six targets, 6 bullets. The way God and nature intended.
They're coming for it!
The Gunstringer learned long ago that just because someone wears a ball-pointed star on their chest, don't put them on the right side of the law. The sheriff was dirty with the oil baron's money, and nothing would save him now. Gunstringer came down, but felt nothing but air beneath him. Every chamber had a destination. He was very nearly buzzard food. He moved willy-nilly like a scalded hen, crashing into the ceiling. He made sure 6 more would meet their maker. targets lined up. It was time to fire. His enemy lay well hid on the other side of this cover. Their mark. Sheriff came cheap and died young in this territory. The Gunstringer reckoned this one had outlived his welcome tenfold. Try as he might, he could not fire upon his enemy from his present vantage point. The train was about to make its last and final stop at the bottom of Dry Hump Canyon. The oil baron would have to wait. Bad news travels on fast horses. The Gunstringer smiled at the thought of the oil baron, bowed and bogged with grief at the loss of his most prized possession. He jumped to the other side with the power and speed of a wild Mustang. Cover me, I'm reloading. He leapt nimble-like to the other side like a goat. The oil baron pinched his pennies where he could, refusing to buy brakes for any of his trains, calling them namby-pamby foppers, weak and gutless. But he'd changed his tune quick enough at the Gunstringer's approach, offering vast rewards to any who could stop the vengeful warrior. Let's get it, boys. His streak was gone to the wind. Gunstringer couldn't shoot until he peeked out of cover. The whole nest. Surviving the West meant knowing the time to cut and run. If that don't put a knot in your... He reached the other side without difficulty. Another taco was soon to make its way down his gullet. Cinco plus 1 is 6. The boulders came at him faster than green grass through a goose. He was 6 for 6. Rough terrain took on new meaning as the gunstringer shook the cobwebs from his head. Alas, the streak was not to continue. The gunstringer hit the bottom of the cliff with the grace of a sack of rocks. The ground kicked like a mule, but the gunstringer was undaunted. Nothing would stop him from finding the Baron. The whole gang had conspired towards the gunstringer's demise, but it was the oil baron who first pulled the trigger, taking a coward shot at the gunstringer's back. Gunshot, lightning, the striking of a match, even the popping of bubble wrap for amusement or to alleviate stress was all it took to set off a stampede. Over 700 tons of horn and hoof, ready to eliminate anything in its path. Mortals were terrified of the devil's taco. The gunstringer embraced Peligroso power. bronze statue argued hotly that he was closing in on his former companion. The Gunstringer felt a hatred for the man as big and wide as the Texas Panhandle. A hatred he wanted to wipe away with gunpowder and smoke. Bones rattled from the force of the impact. The Gunstringer would have to lean out to get a clear shot at his enemy. His bullets found their mark on all 6 targets. He'd have to lean out to bushwhack him properly. The Gunstringer galloped forward, the ringing shots of his revolver a crescendo over the thundering hooves. It was not the first or the last time he'd ride the stallion towards certain death. He was stuck in a jackpot now. Too short. Gunstringer misjudged his stride and fell short. He leapt like a grasshopper to the other side. Gunstringer came down but felt nothing but air beneath him. The Gunstringer covered the gap with ease.
Let's get him, boy.
Even at full gallop, the pursuit weren't quitting. It was time to fight from a higher vantage. The desperados caught wise to his plan, and the driver would pay the price. He had 6 targets in his sights. Not one would escape his aim. steps grew quick. There would be no escape from his draw. Longhorns are pestiferous animals. This was no exception. It put an end to his merry scramble. The sneaking oil buzzard perched his rotund figure atop the well from which he drained the land dry like a tick on a suckling pig. The gunstringer looked up, cold resolve on his face. He'd run plumb into everything the oil baron could throw at him. Nothing would stop him from getting his comebackance now. Where he walked, death walked with him. Where he walked, death walked. A chill spread across the desert as the gunstringer and the oil baron stared each other down. It was a battle of strength versus speed. The massive power of the oil baron pitted against the lightning-quick draw and deadly aim of the gunstringer. What followed was a deadly ballad of destruction. Hate distilled into its most terrible, beautiful form. With the oil baron stunned, the gunstringer cocked back his fists and prepared to unleash his fury. A blast of shrapnel and heat tore through. His first death was at the hands of his betrayers. Was this one of his own doing? The oil baron had taken a beating, but the reinforced steel would not bend lightly. It was then that the Gunstringer called upon a strength greater than his own. The charity calendar promised an elegant and respectful portrayal of the smartest, classiest women on the western frontier who offered companionship in exchange for money. Many men had fallen sway to the brothel madam's influence, but the Gunstringer only saw her part in his betrayal. There would be no charming moments in the retribution headed her way. There was no jumping the deadly blades. The Gunstringer dodged side to side, the razor edges barely missing his frame. With the bayou filled only with outlaws, cheats, and ne'er-do-wells, the brothel madam imported a different folk for her private guard. With that streak behind it, the lumberjacks were well accustomed to blades and saws, and fiercely protective of their rights to fell nature where they pleased, covering a 50-square-mile border past which the madam awaited. He could not step aside in time. Must be in the law. This here called for a Tejas-sized inferno. The salsa picante surged through his bones. A spray of bullets hit all 6 of their intended targets. Gunstringer was wounded, but would survive. Very nearly buzzard food. Missed. Bruised and battered, he couldn't take much more. Don't put a knot in your tail. He leapt like a jackrabbit to the other side. He stumbled forward, dazed by the collision. He'd carried the fight to the center of that logging camp, but abominations and stranger tales lay ahead. To get answers on the brothel madam's location, the Gunstringer would have to find the head of the crew and knock him about till he felt like cooperating. The Gunstringer covered the gap with ease. Something strange was afoot, though the Gunstringer could not name exactly what. The Gunstringer came down, but felt nothing but air beneath him. He was very nearly buzzard food. Missed. Look out! He leapt like a jackrabbit to the other side. The Gunstringer took a fierce hit, but he was unwavering. At the side of the crew chief, the Gunstringer paused, flooded with memories and horrors long suppressed. He'd always scrapped more than an ornery badger, and that day had been no different. He went to the camp looking for a fight, not expecting the atrocities he'd never unsee. Each streak was unique. Careful now. Mano a mano, the only way to truly settle the score.
I can't quite put my finger.
A lumberjack's life is a hard one, given to long days and lonely nights. Even so, the terrible union he witnessed that night took the fight out of him and left only night terrors and permanent scars. Now here was their spawn, the power of a lumberjack, the toughness of a gator, and ugliness borrowed in equal parts from both. Even as the Gunstringer prepared to deliver a final blow, he saw the truth of it. There was no hint of fear in that creature's eyes, only determination. No matter its origins, it had showed grit, and in that was worthy of respect. As they made their way to the riverboat at the head of the armada, the duo of man and half-man, half-alligator sailed across the water with a grace and speed that made Moses crossing the Red Sea look like a two-bit procession. Twinge of sorrow at their passing. Riverboats were drawn to the brothel, madam, like flies to honey. The Gunstringer knew if he stowed aboard, it'd ride straight to her. Gunstringer winced in pain. The roughneck was scheming to brawl. The Gunstringer was happy to oblige. Easy now. Peeking out would give him a line to gutless cowards. His enemy found its mark. Gunstringer pressed onward. There were bullets aplenty, and the harvest had come. Mardi Gras was in full swing. Heaven help the man who got between a Dixieland band and their gratuities. They didn't call themselves the St. Louis Stompers for nothing.
Let's get out of here!
The day the gang turned on the Gunstringer, the madam had stolen his gun away during a buxom embrace, leaving the oil baron open to take his shot without consequence. Her act had been no less cowardly, and one that would be punished equally in full. Watch out! If that don't put a knot in your tail. Gripping the flamethrower in his hands, the Gunstringer knew this would be a weapon of great clarity. He sprung to the other side like a wildcat. All six would taste lead. If there was one thing Andrew Jackson loved, it was a scrap. Old Hickory fought in the American Revolution, defeated Tecumseh at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, beat back the British in the War of 1812, won the Seminole War, and fought in 13 duels. One of them just for being falsely accused of passing gas. Whatever demonic force possessed his statue that day, The screeching of iron reverberated throughout the French Quarter and set everyone there on notice that an unnatural vengeance was upon them.
Watch out!
Did he recognize the strange hand? Or was it a figment of his imagination?
Toodaloo, y'all.
The gunstringer ran smack dab into the terrain like a stampeding bull. Streak was over. His enemy was safely ensconced on the other side of the cover. An aesthetically arresting pedestal, an ode to passion, and an audacious bedroom fortress, trapped inside a fever dream of femininity. The gunstringer steeled himself for the wild-eyed, bawdy onslaught to come. Brothel madam was a quarrelsome, temperish woman who fought the passage of time and the toll of gravity like a lassoed wildcat. She wore enough face paint to send half the Comanches in Texas on the warpath, and had a top shelf you could lay a Stetson on. But no amount of foppery could conceal her deceitful core, and the gunstringer made ready to address her true self with the language of gunpowder and steel. momentum was weakened, and the time had come to strike.
Make it rain! Come, my beauties!
I love you, man.
Lord,
Couldn't end like this. Not now. Not before his vengeance was delivered.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It was his chance, and the Gunstringer responded with a flurry of bullets.
Thank you!
When the gang first formed, they took on a young samurai on the condition that he had firearms to his bladed arsenal. And thus did the Beardmaster join in their mission of monetary reallocation. His subsequent betrayal of the Gunstringer, however, was not an issue that would be so easily adjudicated. He leapt nimble-like to the other side, like a goat. If that don't put a knot in your tail. He was stuck in a jackpot now. like a scalded hen past the fallen rocks. Mortals were terrified of the devil, and still more of the creatures felt live. The law of the West was a harsh one. An eye for an eye, like in the olden times. There was justice to be done that day, and he was the man for it. Land safe! He reached the other side without difficulty. The streak was over. A great wall loomed in the distance. The Beardmaster had done up his own fortress on the eastern frontier. And place for brute force. This was one of them.
This belongs to us.
His enemy was safely ensconced on the other side of the cover. He would have to lean around this cover to bushwhack him properly. His bones rattled from the force of the impact. Cinco +1, 6. The Beardmaster's dojo lay somewhere beyond the Great Wall that protected it from thieves and Comanche raiders. If he could not get around it, he would have to find a way over it. The stone bulwark was an affront to any who loved the freedom of the unadorned open range. But the Beardmaster was right to live in fear that one day his ill-gotten gains would require payment in full. Look out! He leapt like a grasshopper to the other side. He was 6 for 6. His enemy was too well hid from this position.
This time.
A blast of shrapnel and heat tore through him. His enemy lay well hid on the other side of this cover. Guts, the Texas kind. It's how the West was won. And his steps grew quick. There would be no escape from his draw. story continued, with the Gunstringer's resolve unchanged. He would exact his bloody revenge. Brilliant colors and intriguing shapes wafted towards him on a heavenly breeze, intent on his destruction. Death at the hands of the samurai, dodged having his hair peeled by Comanches, and survived being flung through the air with a rocket strapped to his back. But the real fight had just begun. parapet surrounded a lavish Zen garden, a recreated paradise from the samurai's homeland. The Asian fineries were lost on the Gunstringer, who preferred a bedroll and campfire to all this foolish get-up.
Watch her!
Gunstringer misjudged his stride and fell short.
Watch out!
The boulders came at him faster than green grass through a goose. Gunstringer came down, but felt nothing but air beneath him. He was very nearly buzzard food. Missed. Bamboo, the Chinese symbol for long life. Just so long as you don't end up getting skewered by one through your barrel chute. The constant stress of riding the Vengeance Trail can have ill effects on one's health, contributing to heart attack, stroke, and emotional overeating. The sweet smell of jasmine and the sound of birds singing relieved his muscle tension, as his subconscious mind saw oceans instead of gravel, islands instead of rocks, and the Beard Master's flaming, bullet-ridden corpse in every tree. Gunstringer covered the gap with ease. By the time the boulder got there, he was gone like yesterday's wind. That don't put a knot in your tail. Stuck in a jackpot now. Gunstringer used to fear heights, or at least it could be said that they avoided each other's company. Something, though, about reanimating and then facing down death a dozen times over had taken the edge off his old anxiety. Besides that, he was a stubborn, ornery fella, not taking kindly to be told what to do, even by his own mind. His glove nearly worn through the grip. The Gunstringer landed at last in the inner sanctum, the peaceful surroundings standing counterpoint to the violence that was soon to come. The Gunstringer gripped the stake and bade all enemies to come forth and face his wrath. The Gunstringer was wounded, but would survive. Beardmaster had often performed the impossible, trimming a hummingbird's eyelashes with a wave of his sword, or bending 60-penny spikes like you'd fold a newspaper. The Gunstringer's only equalizer was his six-shooter, but he'd have to endure a mighty beating just to get his shots in. The Gunstringer found the Beardmaster in his private sanctuary, where the Buddhist master had spent the last year and a half meditating without interruption in an attempt to merge his consciousness with the rainbow. His holiness of unsurpassable blessings was about to let loose with a fistful of infinite wisdom, as he called it, all over the Gunstringer's face. He readied himself for the imbroglio. The Beardmaster was bowed, but it would take a greater force to finish the job. time had come to deliver the final blows. The Lady of the Dead would be the last target and the hardest to find. She roamed the shadowy paths between life and the beyond, and to track her, he searched the towns along the blurred border. Her betrayal had hurt the most, and for that, he would make her pay. Careful now. Gunstringer misjudged his stride and fell short. He was very nearly buzzard food. The icy grip of the Reaper around his throat. It would take the hand of fate to knock it free. If that don't put a knot in your tail. He leapt like a grasshopper to the other side. Once a place of refreshment and the occasional awkward group bath, had turned to dust, littered with the bones of those who had counted on it being there for their survival, only to be left high and dry. Would be unstoppable in battle, but at what cost? It is said that when hell is full, the dead will walk the earth. Is that how these specters came to be here? Is that how the Gunstringer came to be here? He had no doubt the devil would make leave upon his return. His bones rattled from the force of the hit. Watch out! He was stuck in a jackpot now. Some ancient deviltry was afoot, and he'd bet his last cigarillo that the Lady of the Dead was behind it. The land grew stranger, and the lines between life and afterlife grew hazy in the burning sun. He'd found the path he sought, but from here on, there would be no turning back. Where one streak ended, another would surely begin. shot all 6 targets. Were these hallucinations? Figments of the mind brought on by fever and heat? It was best to shoot them all. Madness or not, the Gunstringer wasn't one for taking chances. A gunfighter can do no better than to shoot 6 targets at once. He put a bullet into all 6 of his targets. All 6 of his targets stopped dead. 6 targets, 6 bullets, the way God and nature intended it. Perfectly balanced, it would deal a swift death to all who met it. Bones rattled from the force of the impact. Chamber had a destination. He made sure 6 more would meet their maker. With 6 targets lined up, it was time to fire. Well, this ain't gonna be a fair fight. Throughout his youth, the Gunstringer had been too busy learning to ride, rope, curse, brand, and fan a gun at high speeds to get mooned over women. He'd made only one exception. desperately for the extra life force now contained within him. The Gunstringer remembered only patches of the time he'd spent wandering the afterlife before he'd reasserted himself on the mortal plane. He came back for vengeance, and his soul would not quiet till justice was served. Gunstringer ran smack dab into the terrain like a stampeding bull. His mortal form returned. Each of his steps now felt uncertain. There was strange magics in his face. The souls of the dead were jealous of any life. Even the small glimmer found in the reanimated bones of the Gunstringer. Willy-nilly, like a scalded hen, crashing into the scenery. The phrase rough terrain took on new meaning as the Gunstringer shook the cobwebs from his head. Desperately, they pulled at his soul, hoping to take his place in the mortal realm. An ingenious mix of fuel and flame burnt justice everywhere before him. Gunstringer became a frenzy of death. None would stand in the path of his vengeance. The streak had ended. It was time to start fresh. Took on new meaning as the Gunstringer shook the cobwebs from his head. Was near. The Gunstringer was sure of that. But these were her lands, and nothing here seemed for certain. Burned in the Gunstringer's memory was the Lady of the Dead's gloating laughter as she stood over his grave. Spurned and jealous, she turned the others against him, plotted his early exit from the mortal realm. There wasn't a horror in this place that would stop him from exacting his revenge. misjudged his stride and fell short. Gunstringer came down, but felt nothing but air beneath him. Many a time had the Lady of the Dead tried to decapitate him after a lover's fall. It's what kept their relationship fresh and exciting for a time. Apparently, she had moved on. Very nearly buzzard food. There was a sight rarely seen, at least outside of the dubious dens of the purveyors of otherworldly experiences. The Gunstringer suddenly recalled his father's dying words to him. Never talk out loud to your hat in public. Never let a coyote represent you in court. And most of all, never ever mess around with a voodoo priestess. For once, he had to admit the old man had a point. Gunstringer leapt in and struck the Dark Queen with a flurry of blows. It would take more than bullets and fists to bow the voodoo queen. Her time had come, and it was the Gunstringer who was the true master of death. Gunstringer felt jubilation at the thought of his old posse sitting on ice at Formaldehyde Smith's funeral home. But what now? He had not counted on outliving his former companions. Was he destined to ride the trail forever? Or did fate have one last hand to play before it cashed in his chips for good?
Day by day, everything you were is more and more forgotten. What they used to say may still ring true, but now your heart is rotten. Don't deny the invitation for one more chance. Don't deny your enemies their one last dance. Grasp the cold grip of your gun. No one lives to tell the tale. They paid the price unknown to them. They were for sale. The vengeance trail is miles wide. Each step feels like 2 or 3 strings of fate pull you there, nowhere to hide. Memories serve as your only guide. Retribution swiftly comes tonight. This cowboy's last ride. One by one, like falling stars, their light put out, not burning. Play by play, the story ends, but now your soul is yearning. Don't deny the whole is greater than the sum, and don't deny that you can change what you've become. Trusty Steve stands by your side, never stops to question you or hesitate. The only friend that's still alive. No matter what they try to say, truth is covered up, disguise, talk is cheap. Heart skips a beat, staring their eyes. Back and forth motions will turn the tide. Absolution nowhere inside. This cowboy's last Now that you've gone and chosen a side, true redemption quietly passes by. On this cowboy's